Welcome to the Library Show. We have a real treat today. And the treat is one of my very favorite parts of Philadelphia. That is Boathouse Row. Dotty Brown, a longtime editor at the Philadelphia Inquirer, wrote a wonderful book. It's a great combination of narrative and photos. And you can see on the screen a really terrific photo, the cover photo of this book, Boathouse Row, Waves of Change in the Birthplace of American Rowing. Dotty, good to have you on today. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, you told me a story of how this book came to be, and one of the things that I have loved this year, as we featured authors, is how serendipitous certain situations are and why a book gets published or how somebody met an agent. How did this particular book get published?
Well, it came to me, and I was very lucky, actually. So I had left my job at the Philadelphia Inquirer, and I had also taken up rowing. And Temple University Press realized that Philadelphia did not have a history of Boathouse Row. Nobody had ever written it. So they realized that I might be the perfect person since I could write and I was rowing. And initially, frankly, I didn't know that I wanted to spend several years of my life because I knew a book like this would take a long time. But once I went into the old archives at the Library Company and the Historical Society, I discovered these wonderful stories. And there in my book, I just fell in love with the material. It was really fascinating.
I think it's fascinating how people in Philadelphia are so in love with rowing as a sport. There are places where this is not a big deal. That's not true in Philadelphia. It is a big deal. I think it's fascinating that you as a woman got into rowing. I kind of had a vision of it being an all-male sport, perhaps because when I went to Penn, it was an all-male sport, but it's grown and changed since then. Do you deal with that in your book?
Well, the subtitle is Waves of Change in the Birthplace of American Rowing, and that's because, in fact, the demographic changes that came to Boathouse Row are the same ones that came to Philadelphia and the nation. You had basically white men of means in the mid-19th century. Later, you had immigrants coming in, and then you had, well, can I take you through some of my slides here? I talk about
Absolutely.
that. Okay, here we go. So just to remind everybody, in the old days, we had the Liberty Bell and City Hall and Independence Hall as the visuals of Philadelphia, and a Lower Merion architect, a visual architect, Ray Grinald, a lighting architect, decided that Philadelphia would be much better off with lights on Boathouse Row, which he was able to do in the late 1970s. And of course, this has become the great icon of the city. Mm-hmm. Rowing was the biggest spectator sport of the 19th century. And here you see in what's called a stereoscopic photo, crowds of people along what is now Kelly Drive. Of course, there were no cars at that time. And Thomas Eakins helped to create Philadelphia's image as a great rowing city. One of his first great paintings was this one. And in the foreground is Max Schmidt, who went to Central High School with Eakins. And Eakins himself is that a little character in the little boat behind him, and that is actually where he signed his boat. He lived 6 blocks from the river and was himself a rower, although not necessarily a great one. I just wanted to remind Lower Merion that Frank Furness, one of the great architects of the late 19th century, who did the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts in the bottom right, and also the Bryn Mawr Hotel, which is now the Baldwin School, he did a house on Boathouse Row, which is the Undine Barge Club. And here you see it. It is, I think, the most beautiful house on Boathouse Row, very dynamic. He loved working with geometric shapes, and you see all kinds of cubes and diamonds and rectangles, and it's a very muscular building for the men, the very muscular men who were rowing on Boathouse Row. I mentioned the demographic changes. John B. Kelly Sr. In 1910 joined the Vesper Boat Club, and he was in the wave of immigrants who had come in the late second half of the 19th century. His parents were really poor Irish immigrants, and he became the world's greatest single sculler. In 1920, he won the Olympics, and again in 1924. And this is the first house that was built on Boathouse Row, 1861. And you see the sign that says first on the row, 1861, first for women, 1938. So the next group that came in were women who really had to fight their way onto the sport because this was called a manly sport. Rowing was a manly sport, and it was believed to be far too difficult for women. But the women were able to get this house on Boathouse Row in 1938 when the skating club, and this was built as the Philadelphia Skating Club because the river froze over in the old days. That skating club moved to Ardmore in 1938, and you all, I'm sure, know about the skating club in Ardmore. But that building became vacant, and women were able to get it. This is a picture from that era. They were treated like the Rockettes. They were called a marital club. The men thought the only reason they were there were to find guys to date. But in fact, they were pioneers for the whole country for competitive women's rowing. They were the first competitive rowing club in the country. So this is 1952, Lower Merion crew rowing in the Stotesbury Regatta, which happens every Mother's Day. Lower Merion was one of the first suburban high schools after World War II to start rowing. Now there are 40 high schools in the Philadelphia, Delaware Valley, South Jersey region that have rowing. And finally,
Dotty, before you go on, 1 second, is the Stotesbury Regatta only for Delaware Valley schools, or is it for all across the country?
No, the Stotesbury is the largest regatta for high school kids in the world.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah.
Impressive.
And this is Philadelphia City Rowing. So finally, we are getting more inner city kids onto the river. There's a big effort to push for more diversity. One of the problems is that these kids haven't grown up with rowing. In many families, rowing is passed down from father to son or father to daughter, mother to daughter. It becomes a family thing. But these kids, many of them, haven't even grown up learning how to swim. So this is a wonderful program that's come to the river, Philadelphia City Rowing. And that's sort of the last wave of change that we've been having. So
I love seeing the pictures because I think the pictures bring it home to people. But talking about bringing it home, can people visit the houses on Boathouse Road? They're so interesting. I've been driving past on the drives, for decades, and I don't think I've ever been in one. Can regular people, non-rowers, go in?
Not really. There is one house on Boathouse Road that gets opened on Lighthouse Day, which is in August. And it's the house that has a chimney, not a chimney, a lighthouse through the middle of it. It actually goes through the middle of its living room. And it's unfortunately not exactly a boathouse. It's a women's club that has been there since the late 19th century. They've never really had a rowing as a sport. They're a social organization. As for the other ones, there are rowing programs open to the public, so you can learn to row. And if you go to if you Google Boathouse Row, you'll get to the Schuylkill Navy's website. The Schuylkill Navy is the umbrella group for the river. It's made up of all the clubs on the river, and you will find information about lessons that are not very expensive, a couple $100, and you can take lessons and learn to row and then join a club. So there are also, the clubs rent themselves out for events. So that's another way to get into them. But there is one day a year. In the past, there has been COVID, of course, not so much, where there is an open house for the whole river. But you need to connect with someone who's a member of a club to sort of learn about it and do the walkthrough. It's an evening event with sort of food in one place to the other. But,
so if anyone really, really wanted to see the inside of one of the houses, planning a party there is a good way to do it.
Yeah, that would be a great way. Yeah.
Dotty, you've given us great pictures. You've obviously done your homework. Can you give us a couple of sentences about the research that was involved and the time? Because I know this is considerable.
The book took me 4 years to do, basically 3 solid years of research and writing, and then a year of in between waiting for editors. I spent an enormous amount of time in archives. So the Library Company, the Independent Seaport Museum, the Fairmount Park archives, which are under the city's auspices, Temple University's Special Research Collection, which has many of the photos that are there. They have the archives for the Inquirer and the old Philadelphia Bulletin. So they've got pictures going way, way back. So that's basically a lot of work and a lot of interviews.
Wow. Books don't just come out with a snap of the fingers. They take a lot of work and a lot of time.
Exactly.
And let me ask you the final question. You started off saying that you had begun rowing yourself. Are you still rowing?
I am. Yes, I love it. I don't race too much. I did race one time in a big, in the fall regatta, the head of the Schuylkill, just to say that I did. But I love getting out on, looking at the turtles, and I do it recreationally.
Okay, so, that's super. And finally, did you pass that love on to your daughters?
Well, I tried.
Okay.
I tried. They're too busy to row. So, I think they may get into it someday when they have a little more time.
Well, thank you for taking the time to be with us today on the Library Show. You've given us a great view of a very important piece of Philadelphia.
Thank you, Lenore.
We'll be back with more of the Library Show. Thanks, Dotty. I really enjoyed that. Welcome back to the Library Show. In this month of July, we're very privileged here in Lower Merion Township because our libraries are opening up, just like the rest of the world. And although the last few months have seen an opening both for adults and children in terms of events, the summer is a great place to be if you are an elementary school age child in Lower Merion. It's even good if you're an adult too, but for kids, oh my goodness. I really would love to have all 6 children's librarians on this show. However, I have limited time. Therefore, I have one of our very best, Dawnita Brown. They're all the best, actually. But I have Dawnita Brown from Ardmore with us today. And Dawnita, I'm going to ask you if you could tell us first about some of the in-person programs that are planned for kids this summer at Ardmore.
All right. Thank you, Lenore. I wanted to talk about, and just so everyone knows, I know you can go online and find out about the programming, but this yellow flyer is also the summer reading program. You can get this at any of the libraries, and inside there's information on every program, well, most programs, sometimes a few get added at the last minute, that the libraries are doing throughout the summer. And so I'm going to be talking today about some of the programs that Ardmore is having. Luckily, Ardmore has a nice front lawn with a short little wall between it and the road that we can have a lot of our programs, since we can't have indoor programming right now. So we're doing a lot of things outside, and I'm going to be talking about some of the things that we're doing. But first, I wanted to just mention that the first Wednesday book club is on Zoom, but when we can have programming indoors, it will be live. And if you want to sign up, go to the website and go to the event on Event Keeper and sign up for the first Wednesday book club. The teens have Dungeons and Dragons on Wednesday night on Zoom. And I hope all the teens are interested in signing up for the Dungeons and Dragons. You also do that through the website. Now for the preschool and the little kids, I will be doing outside story times, weather permitting. If it rains, or if it's too wet to do the story time, or I decide it's too hot to do the story time, then we will have it on Zoom, but I will email everyone who's signed up. So, and for Ardmore, yes, Lenore.
I was going to say, I took my grandchildren when they were very young to one of those story times on the lawn, and it is magical. It is just a delightful experience to be there with lots of kids, lots of parents and caregivers, having the story read. It's just a very special aspect of the library. So
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
One thing that has come of the pandemic is that we've started doing grab and go bags, or sometimes people call them take and make bags that coordinate with the story times. And I do a story time every week on Thursday at 1 p.m. And in the yellow flyer, it tells you what the theme is for Ardmore's Thursday story time, as well as the grab and go bag that you would get that week, which has a craft, a coloring page. Usually it has songs and lots of fun stuff. So make sure you always get the grab and go bag that goes to the story time. And they will be on the lawn outside by July, weather permitting. Miss Hillary is doing tons of stuff outside. She does a music play group once a month on Mondays at 2:30. The two that are left in the summer are July 19th and August 23rd. And if you register online, she will send you an email with all the information you need about that. Miss Hillary also is doing several special programs. In July, she's doing one called Create Your Own Animal Characters. That's going to be on a Friday at July 9th at 11 a.m. She's also doing Frozen in July, Saturday, July 17th at 11 a.m. That one is a big program. She is doing so many Frozen, the Disney Frozen. There's crafts and activities and books. It will be so much fun. Miss Hillary puts tons of effort into all her programmings. She is also doing in August for our summer reading closing party, she is doing an unbirthday party, which, as you know, goes to it's hosted by the Mad Hatter and Alice. So that will be so much fun. She's already preparing for that one. She is also doing Draw Mo Willems, Piggy and Elephant on July 30th. And Roly Polies, an outdoor program on July 23rd. Those little tiny bugs that roll up into little bugs that are in the ground. She's doing that. We also have one program that's coming in from outside. Riverbend Environmental Outreach Program is coming, and they're doing two programs. One in the morning at 11 a.m. called Eggs to Legs. That's like frogs. And one in the afternoon at 1 p.m. called Terrific Turtles. So those are going to be, and we're coordinating story time the week before with that. We're reading books about turtles and frogs and lots of fun stuff. We also have, believe it or not, on July 31st, it turned out to be a Saturday this year. So we're having a Harry Potter birthday party. Oh. We've had a Harry Potter birthday party for like 3 years, but last year we weren't able to because there was no programming inside. But we're going to do it outside this year. So we'll have stations set up where you can go and you can make things and you can create and you can have snacks, Harry Potter type snacks. So it will be so much fun. We just have so many programs, but keep in mind that there will only be programs outside if it doesn't rain. If it does rain, they will either be on Zoom or they might have to be postponed. So, and I did want to talk about our summer reading program this year. What Ardmore is doing, I think some of the libraries are also doing it, is that if you read your summer reading books and you log on online or you come to the library and we can do it for you, you will get a bag with a mystery prize in it. Ooh. So you won't know what type of bag what kind of prize is going to be in your white bag. But everybody that comes and tells us that they've read or that come into the library and we can log in for them will get their mystery summer reading bag with a prize.
Wow. So Anita, let me ask you, all these wonderful programs, do people have to pre-register for all of them or they mostly show up ones?
Mostly they need to pre-register. The ones that, like the Harry Potter birthday party, we can have a lot of people. But if they don't pre-register, we have trouble communicating. Like if we have to postpone or do a Zoom program. So it's nice if they can pre-register, and they need to go to the website, lmls.org, and then go to events, and then go down to the right day and put their name on the registration. Like the Harry Potter party, we're going to have like a really big class limit so that as many people that want to can come. But if you pre-register, then we have your email that we can let you know about all the information.
Okay. And is there a cost associated with any of these?
There is not a cost with anything.
Oh, wow.
It's all provided by the library.
What a wonderful thing it is to be in Lower Merion and take advantage of the Lower Merion libraries. It's just fabulous. I wish I had a child who was that age to bring. I feel a little out of it.
We had a lot of adults come to the Harry Potter birthday party. You should come to that.
Oh, that's what I have to get round. I have to get round glasses and get a top hat and everything, so I'll be dressed appropriately. And have
make your own hat.
I have to. It has to say Harry Potter across my chest so people know just who I'm supposed to be. That would be fun.
That's good.
Yeah. Are you doing all this on your own, or do you have assistants?
No, Miss Hillary is doing a lot of it, and then I'm doing a lot of it. And we are trying to get the Prenda Code Club. There's a teen Prenda Code Club going. But if you go to the lmls.org website, you can sign up for that and do it on your own.
Okay.
So all of the kids can do that.
I was wondering if you needed any parental volunteers.
The problem with volunteers right now, from what I understand, is that everyone who works in the library has to have their clearances. And if they're a volunteer, they have to pay for them themselves. Okay. So it would be, we would love to have volunteers, absolutely love, but you would have to make sure that you have your clearances.
You mean be fully vaccinated, or is there
no? The clearances, the child clearances.
Got it. Okay. But you don't.
But if they contact us, we can send them all the information about how to get those.
Well, we're living in the era that we're living in today, not an era of 50 years ago. So we do have to be careful of all those things. Donita, thank you so much for that very complete explanation. I have to tell you that it's not that the other libraries don't have events. As Dawnita showed you, all you have to do is go online or pick up the booklet that's on the reference desk and all the circulation desk in all the libraries, and you will see the range of things that are happening at all of our libraries. Definitely worth participating with your child or children or guests. Super stuff. I, however, will be taking off in August, so you won't see fresh shows from me on LMTV. However, if you've become addicted or you decided that you like the library show, you can go to LMTV at Viebit, VIEBIT.com, and see any of the past year's worth of library shows. I'll see you back in September. Have a great summer.